Thanks for keeping it tuned here to the Mountain Morning Show. Right now, I'm very excited to welcome Roger Burrows. He's an author who will be speaking at the Summit County Library coming up on Tuesday, January the 29th. Roger, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming on the program. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of background about yourself as an author. Where did it all begin?
Actually, I started off as an academic.
I see. Okay.
And then I got in England, and then I started writing books really to do with mathematics and geometry.
I see.
And they were picked up, some of my geometrical books were picked up by a Los Angeles publisher. I was invited then to work for them. So then now I become the executive vice president of the largest West Coast trade publisher. Which is unlikely.
So you went from academia to the world of publishing.
I did.
That's quite a stark transition there.
Yes.
What were those early lessons like? Were they quick and fast and hard?
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Because, you know, being a mathematician, now I'm in this publishing environment, and they were expecting all these things from me. I mean, they loved my books, the books that they published. But they expected me to be creative and artistic and all these factors that I'd never developed.
Yeah.
So I used to say, well, that's not how we do it in England. And then that night, I'd work my tail off and figure out how to do it, whatever it was in publishing. So yes, I came. Gosh, I think it's bravery.
Bravery, I'm sure, absolutely. You have to be brave.
Stupidity comes in there somewhere. No, and then sort of I developed the skill sets all the way through.
And obviously you enjoy it though, because you've stuck at it all these years.
Yes,
correct?
well, you know, things change a bit. So I worked at Priceton Sloan in LA through the 80s, and I was lucky enough to work with many people. Like, I did a silly book with Frank Zappa.
Yes.
And he was great. And you know, he's a wonderful man, but he's gone now, but still. And then I was lucky enough to work with many authors. And then I got into co-editing. I wrote a lot. I did books. I used to tell my daughter stories, you know, bedtime stories. And then through the publishing company, I would just say, okay, well, we need some more kids' books.
Children's books.
So I'd write the stories. These are a couple.
These are some of the stories that you would tell to your daughter.
I tell to my daughter.
Wow, and they became books.
Yeah, and I wrote under a pseudonym because I didn't want everyone to know that, you know,
the vice president of publishing.
Self-interest.
That's very smart of you there. So, you know, Utah has a large community of authors here.
Yes.
There's a lot of science fiction authors. There's a lot of nonfiction authors. What are some advice you have to those that are just getting started? Maybe someone who just graduated with their English degree and they're starting to write their first book. What tips do you have for them?
I always say, because, you know, I lecture now and do all that stuff, I always say find your passion. You might have to dig deep, you might not. It might be right there. But find what drives you, your motivation. That's one factor. Another thing is find something you want to say. Mm-hmm. And it could be very simple. And maybe don't be afraid. Mm-hmm. If you start to write, don't worry about grammar, don't worry about spelling, not in the first round. Just write down whatever you want to say. I think finding something to write about. Writing is really important. It's almost, it helps your emotion, it helps your well-being. But then the question is, you know, what do you write about? Well, you can write about your family. You could start there. Mm-hmm. Make a family record. You know, talk about you. Think about what you'd like to know about your grandparents. And then it's you, because you're going to be a grandparent. Hopefully.
That's very true. The tips that I've always gotten is write what's familiar to you when you're just first starting out, because it's going to be the thing it's not going to be so laborious, right? You're going to be able to kind of breeze through it, and it's going to make the writing process a little bit more enjoyable for you for that first experience. And for those that are maybe have written their first book and they're trying to get to a publisher, what tips do you have for them? Because that can be the hardest part. I mean,
sure.
You think the hardest part is writing the book, but actually getting out there and shopping the book can be even more difficult.
Yeah, there are a number of options, of course. I mean, you can write articles, that's magazine submission, but to a publisher, having been on the publishing side and getting thousands of manuscripts, literally, and then getting an intern to look at them, tricks are, one, if you have a book, go to a bookstore and look at the imprints, the publishing imprints that sell the type of book that you've written. So look at that. Look at the book formats. Look at the page counts. Get a sense of that. Then find out more about the publisher. And a great way to do that is there's an American Booksellers Association conference every year. Get the catalog, because in the catalog they have the names of editors. And the key is to get the name of an editor and establish a rapport.
That's the key. Absolutely.
It's the key.
Absolutely. And Roger, you'll be speaking at the Summit County Library on Tuesday, January 29th. I'm sure a lot of these great tips will be included in that talk. You can ask many other questions as well. Where can people go to find out more information about you, sir?
Online. My website is Roger Burrows Images.
Roger Burrows.
I have an Instagram. So, yeah, you can check me out.
But the best thing to do is head over to the Summit County Library on Tuesday, January the 29th. Thank you so much, Mr. Burrows, for coming on and speaking with us. Really appreciate it. Again, head over to the Summit County Library Tuesday, January the 29th. The talk will be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You won't want to miss out there. We'll be right back with much more right here on the Mountain Morning Show.